Now let's move on to our next sheet. So we have stippling, scumbling, and varied line quality. So stippling is just dots built up to create value. So we're going to start with a higher number. We're going to start with 10, 20, 40, 80, 160, 320, 640. And the reason is when you do stippling, you're going to want to use a fine point Sharpie, or you can use just a regular pen. I have these great Sharpie pens. And all you do is you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You want to kind of spread them out at first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You want them to be pretty random, but you want to fill them out. What you don't want is to have them all be in one corner when you do your 5 or your 10 or your 20. You want to make sure that you're spreading them out as you go. So I think I just did 5 there. So okay, 160 approximately. Now, when you start getting to higher numbers, you can always take a second pen and you can do it two-handed. So this technique is not for everyone, and you probably should do it by yourself somewhere because the noise is obnoxious. Now, the real question might be, why would we ever use stippling compared to some of these other techniques? And the reason is that this technique, tedious, but it gives you the most control. So when you're using this technique, you have a lot of control. You're not going to overvalue things really quickly because it takes a long time to build up that value. Unlike hatching, where you could easily put a line that's too dark or build it up too quickly, here stippling gives you the most control, so it's really good for areas that you want to do kind of like a skin texture or just do a very soft, subtle value. So let's talk about scumbling. Now, scumbling is the most fun and the most to do with Zentangling in general or other techniques like that, and that is any decorative mark used to build value. So you can do shapes, you could do colors, you could do initials, you can do text, you can just do swirls or wiggles. What we're going to do this time is we're going to go back to our 5, 10, 20, 40, 80, 160, and 320. And I'm just going to do a basic little swirl. So it's kind of like a 6 that goes back and forth. Now I'm going to do 10. Now, you'll notice that as I'm doing them, they're overlapping. Now, the last one is varied line quality, and that has to do with using different pens, pressure, and distance to show value. Now you might be wondering about scumbling, like where we would use this. What's really nice about scumbling is that you could actually have full sentences in your Zentangle, secret messages, secret numbers, secret symbols, and those are all a great way of building value. And then when a viewer looks up close, they'll see that you have all these hidden secrets within your drawing. Now with varied line quality, this is a great way of showing value, especially if you're doing illustrations, and it's something that if you look closely at animation, uses it the most. So in an area of highlight, they would use a thin outline or a thin mark. So we're just going to do 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, and then let's say we'll do 150. We don't want to go crazy. So we're going to start with just 3 thin lines that are very light and that are spread apart. And however you draw these lines is up to you. Just try to have them go in parallel. Now when we get to 6, I'm going to go up in size in my marker. So I'm going to actually go up to my size 3 marker, or you can just go a little bit heavier with your pressure, as well as they'll have to be closer. So they're a little bit thicker. I can even double up the thickness if I want. I can go from thick to thin to add a little bit more motion. Add some areas that are a little thicker, and that will look a little darker, and it'll look darker on one side than the other. Now I can go just a little bit closer. And I can have some of these get a little thicker so they're touching as well. For 24, if I want to have that same effect, I'm going to split it up and make sure there's 12 on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can see where they get closer together in the corner. It looks a little darker. Now what if I space them out more on this side? 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe I don't get all 24. That's okay. I can move them over here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now I have that varied line quality where it goes from dark to light within the box, and it looks like it has some motion to it as well. What I can do now is I can even go up to a thicker marker. So this is a brush marker. And for 48, I can vary pressing down more or less as I go. Just to start. And now what I can do with my other varied lines and even though there will be 48, you'll see some really strong lines. And some of these sections will have more value because I've built up more lines within them. Now, when we get to 96, I might want to start thinking about doing a thinner marker and just experimenting with how close I put some, how far apart I put others. And there you have it. Now you have 5 ways of building up value with your pen, but you also have the tried and true method of going in with your pencil, and you can just use that as a reference to make sure you go from light to dark, even when you're doing your value in your Zentangles.